Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Echoes of Liverpool. I'm your host Chris, and in episode 2 we'll be discussing and going into detail about the buildings that were related to the Winter story that you all heard about in episode 1. The information that follows comes from historical newspapers, directories, online sources, but all above from pupils and others associated with the school from the 1930s until the 1960s, whose assistance is gratefully acknowledged. There was a local gentleman that was born in 1830. He's known as Mr. William Woods. In 1965, he opened a school at 47 Everton Road. He called it the Everton Road Academy. Mr. William Woods had previously taught at St. Peter's National School, and before that at Liverpool College that was sited in Shore Street. He was assisted by his 2 daughters, who were both trained teachers. Mr. Woods decided to move his school and situate it just down the road to number 61 Everton Road. Due to the school moving to this new location, Everton Road Academy was able to offer thorough teaching with efficient masters. Due to the move, some of the classes that took place within Everton Road Academy were daily rigorous instruction. Everton Road Academy even had special classes for little boys. Everton Road Academy even had exceptional accommodation for boarders that were actually kept at the school 24/7 for their education. They also helped prep students for Cambridge. There were some more unusual lessons that we don't hear about or have today in our schools. They were piano forte and singing teaching. The school was described to be in a healthy location with spacious classrooms throughout the building. It was also reported that the ground was excellent and the children had a lot of places to play. I left this part for last because I want us to make a note of it. It was reported that Everton Road Academy had a number of foreign youths that had special arrangements within the academy. I'll currently leave this here for now about 61 and 47 Everton Road. I'll move on to the buildings within the street that was known as Plumpton Terrace. There was also a barracks on Everton Road, which now looking at it looks derelict. However, it is now the home to a karate dojo. But back in the day, it was home to 611, the 2nd City of Liverpool, the Air Training Corps Squadron throughout the 1960s. Here at Darkhorse and Paranormal, we've managed to find some history about a member of the squadron at the time, and we also have his account. I was a member of the 611 Squadron from early 1965 to 1968. I still have some good memories about the time. I remember one time a photo was taken from inside the drill hall. I remember this clearly as I was taking my last final parade. Our squadron was very well known to have shot down a number of German aircraft during World War II. We were lucky to be flown out of a number of airfields around the country. However, there was one based in London. It's now known as Biggins Hill. This is probably the most known airbase that we flew from today. While I'm talking about Biggins Hill, we've had our own share within that station's route scale. I myself personally like reminding people about the next story, about our squadron. It's less talked about. Many people over the years have heard the story about the legless ace Douglas Badger, but not many know that within our squadron we also had our own legless pilot. I'll get back to the beginning, I'm sorry for going off track. It was in one of our training rooms within the barracks that during my time when that photo was taken, it was a piece of Dornier 215 bomber fuselage. It was shot down by the squadron over Wales in 1940. Well, now we've talked about 611 squadron, there was other things within that building and within that barracks that people more talk about or more known, just like the 9th King's Regiment. People remember it as being the 9th King's headquarters that was there before the dojo. So let's take a little look into this. The Volunteer Force, 1859 to 1908. In the 1880s, Army reformed. The remaining admin battalions were brought together with the surviving small corps. They were merged into existing battalions. It is possible to trace the beginning of the 9th Battalion of the King's Liverpool Regiment, the Territorial Force, formed in 1908, back to a number of volunteer units. The 13th Lancashire Rifle Volunteers, raised at Southport in October 1859. The 13th was attached to the 1st Rifle Volunteers for drills and admin. The 13th LRV come together with the 54th Rifle Volunteers in 1880, and that resulted in a unit. Retaining the senior title became in 1888 the 3rd Volunteer Battalion, the King's Liverpool Regiment. Then was disbanded in 1908. The 54th Lancashire Rifle Volunteers had been raised in Ormskirk on the 15th of March 1960, and it was attached to the 1st Admin Battalion in 1863. So like you just heard, certain regiments, certain forces got disbanded to make way for other forces to come through that were set up to defend our country. So as we take a look into the volunteer force from 1859 to 1908, it was found out that the King's Lingered can be traced through the earlier years of the volunteers. The volunteer force was raised in 1859 under the provisions of the 1804 Yeomanry Act. In 1862, a royal commission chaired by Viscount Eversley was appointed to inquire into the condition of the volunteer force within Great Britain and into the probability of its continuance as is an existing strength. Their report made a number of recommendations and observations on funding and training in order to carry into effect the recommendations of the Commission and to replace the 1804 legislation. The Volunteer Act 1863 was then passed. The majority of the volunteer units were riflemen, but there were also artillery, engineer and cavalry, which is like horse formations. Members of the volunteer force were exempt from service in both the regular army and the military. The basic unit was a company whose minimum and maximum strengths were authorised as 60 and 100 men. These companies were initially independent and lacked coordination. In 1960, the War Office authorised big battalions or brigades in the case of the artillery, whereby several companies from a town or a city became a larger unit. Later on in the year, admin battalions were created. These drew companies together, usually from the rural districts, which had not already been put into battalions as of yet. For example, the 3rd Volunteer Battalion had 7 different companies: A Company from North Wales, B Company, North Wales, C Company, North Wales, D Company Formby, E Company Ormskirk, F Company Ormskirk. However, with the new legislation in 1908 on the formation of the territorial force, the 2 Ormskirk companies became companies of the new 9th Battalion. The 80th Lancashire Rifle Volunteers was raised from members of the Liverpool newspaper and the printing trades on the 8th of January 1861. The 80th Lancashire Rifle Volunteers assumed the additional title the Liverpool Press Guard in 1862. That absorbed the 73rd LTV in 1863. The 73rd LRV had been raised in Newton in June 1860. The 80th was renumbered the 19th LRV in 1880, and in 1888 it was designated the 6th Volunteer Battalion, the Kings, which was a Liverpool regiment. On the formation of the territorial force in 1908, the 6th VB provided the majority of the personnel to form the 9th Battalion. During the reorganisations that took place when the volunteers were disbanded and the territorial force was formed, one of the major changes affecting the existing 6th Volunteer Battalion was the Newton Company left to join the new 4th TF Battalion, the South Lancashire Regiment, being replaced by the Ormskirk companies from the former 3rd Volunteer Battalion. This is where it gets a little bit interesting. The traditional recruiting area of the battalion was the Everton district of Liverpool. From 1908, the market town of Ormskirk and its surrounding rural villages. From 1884, the battalion's headquarters was at 59 Everton Road, Liverpool, whilst the Ormskirk detachment was based at the Drill Hall, Ormskirk, adjacent to the Parish Church. This is where it gets interesting and we dig a little bit deeper into the slave trade, as the title of our podcast is talking about. The whole complete row of these buildings that was on Plumpton Terrace were built and owned by a Mr. Plumpton, along with the wealthy slave merchants who played a significant role in the building up of Liverpool. It's fascinating to discover that within this row of houses, only one was owned by Mr. Adam Cliff. This building was 63 Plumpton Terrace and had a unique history. What's quite fascinating is in 63 Everton Road, there was also established by a first class Mrs. Coleman, where females were boarded and educated. The presence of this within the same building where Adam Cliff resided adds another layer to the history of Plumpton Terrace. It suggests that the building had multiple purposes and was a centre of education and refinement within the community. Well, many locals listening to this will be thinking, he's missed 2 buildings. That's right, I have. The building next door from 61, the one with the witch, we'll cover that in our next episode under the Adam Cliff Day Nursery. And there's another one right at the end which will also be uncovered in the next episode, and the one after. I would just like to say, if you're enjoying it, please feel free to like, subscribe and share. It helps the channel out so much, and let us know that you're listening. Until next time.